And welcome back to Thursdays with Charlie, the 17th of June, 2021. This is episode 56. We're really glad to have you back here. I should mention as a little preview, next week is June 24th, and that is our anniversary of John the Baptist, our parish patron. So we'll be devoting part of next week's show to a little history of John the Baptist. Meanwhile, this week, graduation month is June, and I received this beautiful graduation owl from one of our parishioners. And so it's our 2021 celebration of all those who are graduating. We look forward to celebrating that several times. Last week, as you know, I was on retreat at Sacred Heart Retreat House in Alhambra, California. If you look back on what we didn't do an official show, but I sent some videos and some pictures back from the retreat center. It was a lot of fun, and Alhambra was actually very, very beautiful. The Carmelite Sisters of the Sacred Heart were the ones who run the retreat house. It's also the mother house of their order, which was founded in 1924. They have a total of about 130 sisters in the whole order, and 24 of them reside at the mother house and help out with the retreat center as well. So we're really glad to spend the time there, and I hope our diocese goes back there again next year and for many years to come. The sisters were really good to us, and the food was wonderful. They were constrained by California law to serve it to us in individual sealed styrofoam containers, but I think next year when we go back, and I hope we do, they'll be able to put out a spread like I know they wanted to do this year. The food was very good. Just the presentation, you could tell the sisters really wanted to make it nice, and you can only do so much with styrofoam to make it look nice. And I mentioned at our masses last Sunday that the sisters actually have a connection with our diocese and with the rural parishes that I work with. Up in Caliente, Holy Child Parish, one of the oldest parishes in the state of Nevada, the sisters used to go there in the 1960s, and a few nuns from Sacred Heart in Alhambra, California, would travel up to Caliente, Nevada, and there they would do a religious education program, like a catechism class for the children there during the summer months. So they already are connected with us. It was really, really good. And I mentioned on Sunday the parrots. I was really surprised. I'm used to seeing parrots in a pet store or parrots in a zoo. I don't think of them as living in the wild anywhere near me. But there are hundreds of parrots around Alhambra, California, and especially around the retreat center. And I asked the sisters about it, and they told me a story about a pet store that many years ago had caught fire, and the birds have all escaped, and the birds were mating and nesting and found a good home in that area of California. So now there are hundreds and hundreds of parrots who make their home there. Really a kind of cacophony of sounds when you wake up in the morning, but seeing the beautiful green birds fly around the property was really quite nice. Now, this coming weekend, we celebrate Father's Day on Sunday, honoring our fathers and grandfathers and godfathers and stepfathers and all the male relatives and friends, our brothers, our sons, and our families. There's a form in the bulletin that you could fill out on page 7, and we ask you to get it back to us. If you haven't gotten it back to us before the weekend, please get it back to us over this weekend. We'll put it on the altar along with the other names we've received, and we'll remember those men in our prayers for the next 9 days. The novena of Masses is being offered. That's 9 Masses being offered for our Father's Day intentions. It's good to remember our fathers. I think there's a saying that so many people, there's probably not a busier day in the year for restaurants than Mother's Day, but they used to say that on Father's Day, it was the busiest day of the year for collect phone calls. I'm not even sure if they exist anymore, collect phone calls. So we'll honor fathers on this weekend at all of our masses. Also, at all of our masses this weekend, we are going to have our mask burning. We're going to ask you, if you'd like, just bring your mask or one of them in, and we will have a fire pit set up outside. And after each of the 5 weekend masses, we will burn the masks. I think in my own mind, masks in 2020 became a symbol of fear and almost of oppression, that we were constrained, we were constricted, we were forced to do things that we would not normally have done, separating ourselves from family and friends and social life for a whole year. So I think burning the mask kind of symbolizes our freedom. We are a free people, and we look forward to seeing that freedom restored and celebrated. It's kind of nice that it occurs a few weeks before the 4th of July anyway, and that's a good thing for us to celebrate too. Also this weekend, besides Father's Day, besides our mask burning, it also is the day we're going to have our religious articles kind of new home finding. We ask if you have any religious articles that you would like to share, please bring them by Friday of this week, that's tomorrow, and we will put them on display in the Garces Center so that after we burn our masks outside after each of the masses this weekend, we'll go over to the Garces Center and you can look at all the wonderful religious items that are there, and perhaps some of them will remind you of religious devotions that you once had or you still have, and you'd like to have a marker or remembrance of that. So there'll be statues and crucifixes and rosaries and books and pictures and other devotional items. We are receiving a lot of them. So even if you aren't interested in bringing any home, it's worthwhile to go over and look at them. Will be kind of a history of Catholic devotionals over the years. And if you do find something you'd like to take home with you, we ask that you just take it with you, take it home, and please leave a small donation for the Garces Center. We're hoping to do this as a service, but also as a fundraiser for the Garces Center. We also have some items that were in our rectory for many, many years. We have items from many, many families. I brought over 2 samples today. This is a very simple picture. It actually is a very similar statue to what we have in our church, and a beautiful framed picture. That's one of the items that we'll have. And I have a Last Supper statue, a very beautiful piece to grace your dining room in your house. It was given over years ago. It was stationed in our rectory for many years, and it's something that we have other images of the Last Supper, and really 1 or 2 of them in one area is plenty. And so we're making this available. That's one of the many items, and I do mean many items, that will be available this weekend. Again, after we burn our masks, we'll go over to the Garces Center after each of the masses. If there's anything you want, please take it home with you from there, and we ask that you leave a small donation for the Garces Center. Coming up on the weekends to go, the following weekend, June 26th and 27th, we return to the Riverside. And so beginning Saturday, June 26th, we will have the 4 p.m. Mass on Saturday evenings once again in Don's Celebrity Theater at the Riverside Resort, and the 6 p.m. Mass will remain here at the church. On Sunday morning, the 8 a.m. Mass will be at the church, and the 10 a.m. and 12 noon Masses will return to Don's Celebrity Theater in the Riverside Resort. We're definitely looking forward to returning to the Riverside and seeing a lot of our tourist friends who come in there and making our presence known right along our beautiful Colorado River. The weekend after that is the 4th of July, our nation's 245th birthday, and we are going to celebrate that. We'll remember it at all of the Masses, of course. We'll remember our Declaration of Independence and all the wonderful things that have happened in our 245 years of history, but we're also going to celebrate it with a wonderful comedy show. I was able to arrange with an internationally known comedian. He is Kayvon. That's K-V-O-N. He's a Persian comedian. He grew up in Reno, Nevada, so he has a connection with our state, and he and I have become good friends online. And I asked him if he would come in and do a show for us, and he agreed. Kayvon does shows all over the world, and the ticket prices that I have seen for some of his shows have ranged upwards of $150 a seat. we're keeping him within the line of all of our shows here, and that's $15 a ticket. You will never get a better price to see an international comedy star like Kayvon. So please, the tickets go on sale this coming weekend. Now, he's already put it up on his website, so I would presume that he has millions of followers online. Many of them live in the Las Vegas area. And when they see that he's going to be appearing live right here in Little Laughlin, I think we're going to get an onslaught of people coming down from Vegas to see him. And so please, I encourage our parishioners to buy your tickets early. They go on sale this weekend. The show is 4 p.m. on Sunday, July the 4th. The doors will open 30 minutes before the show. We look forward very much to that being a wonderful entertainment for 4th of July weekend. I understand there's going to be fireworks over the river at night, so that is beautiful. So you'd have time to come and enjoy the show, maybe catch a bite of dinner, and then watch the beautiful fireworks along our Colorado River here in Laughlin. So Kayvon, July 4th, 4 p.m. show at the Garza Center. He is patriotic, he is clean, and he is funny. And you will enjoy that show immensely. I encourage you to please come out and invite your family and friends. It'll be a wonderful way to celebrate our nation's independence.
Comedy is under attack. People get offended, and there's a new culture out there who can get offended first and for other people. And that's the weirdest thing in the world. I had that at a show I did once. There was a blind gentleman in the front row, and I was teasing the blind guy, and he was having a great time. After the show, he said, most people ignore that I'm even there, so thank you for making me feel like a part of it. And that's where his head was at. But during the show, I'm teasing the blind guy, and a woman in the back is like, excuse me, I'm offended. I'm like, what? Why are you? Because don't talk to him anymore. I'm offended for the blind gentleman. I'm like, you're offended for him? He's laughing. He's facing the wrong way, but he's laughing. And to his credit, this is the best part. I go, do you know her? He goes, I've never seen her a day in my life. I got bullied a lot because I look like a guy who can fight, but I can't, so the bully would naturally pick on me. Ladies, don't be confused. These muscles will not defend you. These are for looks. These are designer muscles. That's what these are. Yeah. These are for Starbucks. They're not for Tai Chi. They're for chai tea. That's what you do with these. Even the exercises I do cannot help me in a fight. Like I do the CrossFit stuff. You get those battle ropes. Have you seen those guys? I'm one of those. I'm good at that. That's not going to help me in a fight.
Now, speaking of holidays, 4th of July is a big one, but on Monday of this week, we celebrated an important holiday also, and that is Flag Day, our beautiful American flag, symbol of our American nation. On June 14th, in 1777, the Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia decided to adopt a national flag, a national standard for the United States of America. At the time, there were 13 colonies. And if you notice, and during the Revolutionary War, many of the battles that were fought, the American flag was not in existence yet, and so they fought under regimental flags or state flags or the various colonies, the colonial flags. And so adopting a national standard was a big event in the history of our country, and that was adopted on the 14th of June, 1777. Kind of a funny story, but in my own family, my mother, for some reason, and I don't know the reason, had a custom of always having an official picture taken of me on June 14th. So I have a collection of photos, and I always know the date they were taken. They were taken on June 14th for about the first maybe 7 or 8 years of my life. and kind of watch me grow up. I was going to bring one over, but I'll show it to you later in the year. It's kind of a cute picture anyway. Now, Flag Day wasn't celebrated as a holiday, and even the history of our flag is somewhat shrouded in mystery. The Continental Congress made the decision that there would be one star for each of the colonies, so that was 13 stars, and they decided that there would be 13 stripes. It was only later on that the flag was modified to keep the number of stripes at 13, but to change the number of stars to reflect states that were added. And finally, by 1960, we were up to 50 stars with our 13 stripes of red and white. Many of us grew up hearing the story of Betsy Ross sewing and making the first American flag, and it's a beautiful story. It may not be entirely historically accurate, however. Betsy Ross did exist. There was a real person, Betsy Ross. She really did repair a lot of the uniforms and keep them up for the Continental Army of the United States. And it was only later on in history that one of her descendants started to market or promote the idea that it was Betsy Ross who sewed the first American flag. It's likely that she probably sewed an American flag, but that it was the first one and that she designed it is probably in the realm of legend more than history. But it's a beautiful legend. It's beautiful to think that our country would have someone like Betsy Ross caring for it and carefully sewing that first flag. Flag Day originated in the mid-1800s thanks to a school teacher, William Sigrand, in Wisconsin. And he was promoting the idea that we should honor the day on which our national standard was adapted. And so he promoted it with his students. It never actually became an official holiday until August of 1949. So it's a relatively recent holiday. Congress passed an act authorizing Flag Day on the 14th of June every year, and it's done by proclamation of the president each year. It's a little different than some of the other national holidays. It doesn't give us a holiday from work. The banks and post offices are not closed, but it's a day to recognize our national symbol. Also, something I learned, there's a flag code, a code of conduct of how we treat the flag, and that came into existence in 1924 and has been modified a few times since then. But it reminds us of some things like that the flag should never, ever touch the ground. So even when you're raising and lowering the flag, you should make sure that it doesn't rub on the ground. And also I found out that according to the flag code, we should not ever have things like carpets or bedspreads or things that depict the flag as their entire emblem. We should never walk on the flag or just sit on the flag. It should be something that is held in a place of honor. The one thing I was surprised to learn from the flag code is that anybody can have the American flag draped over their casket. It's not reserved just for military members. It can be done for anyone, although in our custom it's normally representative of a person's military service. But it's kind of nice to know that that's an honor that any American can choose to have and be remembered as a patriot of our country. Speaking of patriots, in honor of Flag Day, I decided I'd like to look up a few quotes about our flag and about our country, and I'd like to share them with you today. The first one is one I've mentioned before, and I like it so much. It's Mark Twain's comment. Patriotism is supporting your country all the time, and your government when it deserves it. Mark Twain was definitely on to something. You know, Mark Twain did much of his writing in Virginia City, Nevada. In fact, that's where Samuel Clemens took the name Mark Twain for the very first time, in Virginia City in our beautiful state of Nevada. But I do have other quotes that I'd like to share. I think when we read quotes, they sometimes help us to focus our minds and focus our hearts and see something maybe a little more clearly. When we honor our flag, we honor what we stand for as a nation: freedom, equality, justice, and hope. That's a comment by President Ronald Reagan by one of the flag days during his presidential administration. The more I read what Reagan said, the more I like President Reagan, and I wish I would have paid much more attention to when he was alive as our president. I kind of knew he was there, but I wasn't listening as closely as I am now. Another good one. We take the stars from heaven, the red from our mother country, separating it by the white stripes, thus showing that we have separated from her. And the white stripes, the white stripes shall be passed down to posterity, representing liberty. That was President George Washington, our very first president. We take the stars from heaven, the red from our mother country, England, and the white stripes representing our liberty. I've never quite looked at the flag in that light, and I think it's a beautiful way to look at it. I especially like the part about we take the stars from heaven. Washington also said, "Let us raise a standard to which the wise and honest can repair. The rest is in the hands of God." Sometimes we don't think of Washington as necessarily a man of prayer, and yet it's definitely there in so much of his writings and so much of his speakings. The rest is in the hands of God. You could do a sermon about that topic, leaving things in God's hands. It's so powerful and so beautiful. This one I think you'll all recognize. "Oh, say, can you see the star-spangled banner yet wave, or the land of the free and the home of the brave?" That's from our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. But our national anthem actually comes from a bit of poetry by Francis Scott Key in the 1800s. It was adapted as our national anthem later on, but it's a bit of poetry, and that's why I think it sounds so majestic, even when it's read or when it's sung. Oh, say, can you see? What a beautiful, beautiful tribute to our flag. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't include, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." It's taken from our American Pledge of Allegiance, and we as Catholics can be very proud because the line "under God" was not a part of the original Pledge of Allegiance. But the Knights of Columbus, along with many other citizens of our nation, worked very hard in the 1940s and the 1950s to make sure those two words, "under God," were inserted in our Pledge of Allegiance. And they were inserted officially, and they remain an important part of our Pledge of Allegiance. Now, obviously, the American flag is the subject of Flag Day, but it reminded me that there are other flags that we pay attention to. And I was looking around my house, and my house is not the neatest part of the world, but I can find things there. And I found a selection of flags that I kept on my desk at one time in New Jersey. I now keep it on a bookshelf in my house out here. And it's the flags of each of the military services. And so of the United States Army, of the United States Navy, of the United States Marine Corps, of the United States Air Force, and of course this one goes in the center of my display, and of the United States Coast Guard. Now those are the 5 military services that we had, but on December 20th in 2019, President Donald Trump inaugurated a sixth service, and that's the Space Force. And I decided I should get a flag for the Space Force, and thinking back, I probably should have gotten one that matches the other 5 flags I have, but instead I was very glad to purchase the flag of the Space Force. A little bit bigger than I wanted, but I think it's going to look very good on one of the walls of my house. And so the Space Force will have a representation. We are grateful. We now have 6 official military services. This week, actually right as we're speaking, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is having a virtual meeting. Our Catholic bishops in the United States meet twice a year. They meet in November and they meet in June. The June meeting this year is a virtual meeting, and it goes from the 16th through the 18th of June. And so they're doing it right now as we speak. Remember, the Conference of Bishops is an interesting thing. Back after the Vatican Council, each nation kind of developed their own gathering of bishops. It doesn't have the official standing that a diocese has. And so a bishop in his diocese does have canonical or church standing. The conference is more like a gathering that the bishops agree to, but it doesn't have any real legislative or power or authority over the bishops in the church. It's just a collective gathering for them, kind of like a nice advisory, pleasant thing to do to discuss. One of the things that is going to come out, I hope, from the work of our conference in June this week is a document on the Holy Eucharist. I also hope that they're going to connect it with strengthening our absolute condemnation of the sin of abortion and the fact that it involves the taking of so many innocent lives. We really believe as Catholics and as Americans that all lives matter and that the babies in the mother's womb are part of all lives and they have to matter. It's part of our Declaration of Independence that we have the right to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Many commentators have said without the right to life, the other rights don't really mean anything. You have to be alive to enjoy them. So we're hoping that the Conference of Catholic Bishops will do something to strengthen that opposition to abortion and also to strengthen our respect for the Holy Eucharist in our church. They're also talking about doing something about a document, a statement on the value of youth and the work of youth in our church, and on marriage as well. So we're looking forward to what will come out of it. So far, there has not been much news about it, but I presume by the weekend more and more will come out from that meeting. So I thank you for joining us for this week. It's time for Pascal to join us. And our friendly owl brings Deus Benedicat America et Nunc et Semper. God bless America now and always. Appropriate message, appropriate for all of us, appropriate as we celebrate Flag Day and get ready for the 4th of July in just a couple of weeks. Thank you and God bless. Have a wonderful week.